Next, from Sweden, we have with us Mr. Chrisander, Vice Mayor of City of Malmo, Kingdom of Sweden, who will tell us about the sustainable development, city development, including decarbonization. He sent us with the video message for a keynote presentation. Sweden is ranked high, one of the highest the countries ranked in World SDGs ranking, and the Malmo city is known for the advanced initiatives in carbon neutral region. Now, we'd like to start a video clip.
Hello, my name is Mr.Chrisander. I am the Deputy Mayor of Malmo. My area's responsibility is the environment and city planning. I would like to thank this distinguished and honored audience for a chance to address you and to talk about some of the work Malmo has done and some of the work that we hope to do in the coming future on the environmental side. Malmo is a city of 350,000 inhabitants, and we're looking to be 500,000 around 2050 as it looks now. We're a very young and growing city. We're right across the water from Copenhagen, Denmark, and we're a very flat city, so it's easy to bike around Malmo. In the recent decades, Malmo has moved from an industrial city with focus on manufacturing, shipyards, and so forth, to a more knowledge-based and maybe more white-collared focus in the job structure of our city. Some of the things that have helped us make this transformation, and I want to mention one of the biggest ones, and that is the bridge between Malmo and Copenhagen, so a bridge between Sweden and Denmark. The bridge was finished in 2000 and was really an important aspect in creating a big job market available for both the Swedes and for the Danes. So for us here in Malmo, we could get jobs in Copenhagen at some of the headquarters there, or if we needed Danish-speaking people, we could grab some from Copenhagen. So it was a win-win for both Sweden and Denmark. We are looking to decarbonize our city or become climate neutral or even climate positive as soon as possible. And we are, of course, facing some challenges in that strive. During 2021, we worked through and approved an environmental program that will run from 2021 to 2030. We have very ambitious goals in this environmental program. And right now we're then trying to analyze. We're pretty aware of where the sources of emissions are and what they are. And we are trying to plan out how we, in the most efficient way, can address these sources of emissions. If you look at Sweden overall, we have about 1/5 of the emissions in Sweden originating from the construction and building industry. Here in Malmo, we have a very progressive industry in that sense, in the construction and building, and they have created an initiative where they're trying to become climate neutral by 2030. And the midterm goal of this initiative is to start a climate neutral project before 2025. So the city of Malmo is really trying to be a productive partner to the industry in this strive, and we are actually seeing the fruits of that already. We are seeing some climate neutral one-family houses being built, and also some climate neutral office buildings are starting out here in Malmo, which is exciting to see. If you look at local emissions from like the territory of Malmo, we have 38% coming from energy and 38% coming from transportation. If you look at the energy side, we have a waste to energy plant in Malmo. So it's actually heating up water in a grid that goes out to heat the homes of Malmo. It's a very efficient waste energy plant. We sort out a huge share of the waste that's coming in, and a very, very small fraction actually goes into landfill. But we are burning waste, and from that comes a lot of CO2 emissions. and we need to address that fact. Right now, we're looking to do that in two different ways. One of the ways we're trying to fix this is through a deep geothermal project with one of the biggest energy companies in the region. Now, deep geothermal energy, the idea there is to send down water 6 to 7 kilometers down in the earth and bring up the heated water in a different pipe and then send it out on the grid to heat the homes of Malmo. If they are successful in this project, or we together, I should say, then we could replace up to 50% of this waste that we're actually burning now to heat the water. So there's big potential in that, but there's a lot more work to be done on it, to be fair. The second way we're trying to address the emissions from energy is carbon capture. Now, some people might say, well, that's not the right way to do it. You should really try to change behavior and so forth. And I can agree that changing and transforming behavior is absolutely vital. But if we're going to meet the environmental goals that we set up, it is not enough to do that. So carbon capture projects are actually popping up in Stockholm, in Oslo, and in Copenhagen, and we are also trying to push the envelope on this. Right now, it's kind of an expensive technology, so we don't have a structure yet, but we're working on it. And if it was the case that the European Union will put money into this, then we want to be ready and really try to absorb that financial help. So that's for the energy. When it comes to transportation, as I said, 38% of the emissions in Malmo comes from transportation. We are trying to address this by really focusing on public transportation and high capacity public transportation lines and routes. And most of our city planning right now is actually taking place in areas where you have really good public transportation. So then we try to develop those areas to make sure that the citizens that will live in these areas can make sustainable choices, and those choices are actually fairly easy to make. The buses are electrified to a large extent, but we're really trying to make all of them electric, and I hope that Malmo is going to achieve that with the help of the private sector, of course, in the coming years. So we actually just procure the transportation, and it's provided by a private company. When you're taking a bus here in Malmo too, we have schedules at the bus stops that are updated in real time, and this is of course also an effort to make those choices as easy and user-friendly as possible. So energy and transportation are the big sources of emissions, and what are we really trying to do to transform our region? We, as I mentioned before, we had the bridge in the year 2000 that was built, and we're actually trying to do a similar transformation now in the coming years. If you look at the bridge right now, it's getting a little crowded, and what I mean by that is that we have freight trains going on the bridge, and we also have commuter trains between Malmo and Copenhagen. And as we speak, Denmark and Germany are actually building a new connection between those countries to enable freight trains to run more smoothly and faster between those two countries. When they're done with that connection in 2029, the volume of freight trains coming will be a lot larger. And we want to make sure that our bridge is not becoming a bottleneck on that route or that line. So our solution then would be to say, let's move these commuter trains into a metro line between Malmo and Copenhagen. That would, of course, also help the job market and make that even more efficient, so you can reach places of work further away in a quicker way and more environmentally friendly. If we're successful in building this metro, with the help of the Danish and Swedish national government, of course, then we are going to free up space on the bridge for freight trains, which will enable the industries of Sweden to really ship their goods in an environmentally friendly way across all the way down to Europe. And of course, the Europeans can send goods up to Sweden and Norway and potentially Finland with freight trains, which is way more efficient from an environmental standpoint than trucking it. So that's one of the big hopes for us going forward in the coming decades. So we are trying to decarbonize and become climate neutral, and we're looking at the main sources of emissions, but we're also trying to take a bigger view of this and trying to hit even the smaller points. So if you look at, for example, the procurement that the city is doing when it comes to furniture or food or whatever, we're really trying to have a environmentally conscious decision making there as well. Now, when I came in to be a full-time politician in the early 2019, I actually got to pick out furniture that were secondhand. And if I didn't like the state of them, they could be reupholstered. And we actually had people that were formerly unemployed reupholster these furniture and make them look really nice and very, very useful. So that's one example where we're trying to have this environmentally conscious decision making in our head. The same thing goes with travels. The organization, the City of Malmo organization, is about 27,000 employees. Now, they have in the past traveled quite a bit, so we're trying to implement travel policies that are really environmentally friendly. And if we don't need to travel, in these times especially, we can, of course, have digital meetings. So we're really trying to push that one as well. Another hot topic that's often discussed here in Malmo is actually the food that we serve to our preschoolers and schools and elderly care. Now, in the last decade, we moved more towards a plant-based diet. But I should say, when my generation and the one before mine have been brought up with eating meat and potatoes, then that transformation can sometimes be difficult, and we have hot debates on this topic. But we are, of course, aware that the food we eat have a big impact or a big footprint. So we're trying to reduce that in a sensible way. I also want to mention one of the initiatives that I actually started, and that's the possibility of our 27,000 employees to lease an electric bike through the city. Now, we don't own the bikes ourselves. We are using private companies, but Malmö Stad, or the City of Malmö, is setting up the structure for their employees to pay a small monthly fee to lease or long-term rent electrical bikes, so they can potentially then leave their car at home and actually get to work with an electric bike. These electric bikes can be somewhat expensive if you just want to buy them. So we think by having this very favorable structure where you only pay a small monthly fee pre-tax is going to make a lot of people think that that's attractive. And we rolled that out in December, and we had record numbers signing up if you compare to other cities in Sweden who have implemented the similar thing. And if you look at those other cities, they have had between 5 and 30% of their employees actually lease a bike, and many of them then left their car at home and actually used their bikes instead. So it's good for the environment, good for your health, and really good for the city. And we're really trying to improve all the bike lanes in the city. Malmo is a very flat city, so you can really bike to a lot of places here without too much trouble. And if you have an electrical bike, that's going to be even easier. If we go back to the city planning and you look at the past decade or the last decades here, we have really had geographic focuses. So we've looked at certain parts of the city and trying to implement different themes from an environmental standpoint. In around year 2000, we had the bridge, as I said before, but we also developed a part of the city called the Western Harbor. And the focus here was to have climate neutral solutions, nature-based solutions, And that was actually very successful. We had a lot of green roofs to stop heavy rains from pouring in. And all the progress that we made in the Western Harbor has actually been reflected in the last 2 decades of city planning here in Malmo. And actually, other parts of Sweden have been inspired by this example. Another example of a geographic area where we had a certain theme is Hyllie. And Hyllie, if you come to this region and you land at the Copenhagen International Airport and you take the train to Sweden, this is the first stop. So literally 10 to 12 minutes away from the airport is the neighborhood of Hyllie in Malmo. And the theme here was to have an electricity grid and a focus on being energy efficient in this neighborhood. So you had a lot of investments in solar panel, trying to connect houses to make sure that we were the most efficient we could be when it comes to electricity and energy in this neighborhood. Right now, we are looking to develop a third area with a certain theme, and this area is called SEGA Park. And SEGA Park is being developed right now, and the focus there is about sharing. And we try to analyze then and create actually personas or avatars to say, how much are you willing to share with other people in your lifestyle, and what impact does that have on your climate footprint? Now, if we took a normal average Swedish person and we compare that to a person that was extremely passionate about sharing, we tried to analyze then to say, okay, if you don't have a car, you use public transportation, you share laundry facilities, you share waste facilities, etc., etc., etc. How far can you go? And what does that mean? If you looked at this very passionate persona, you could actually see that the normal Swede had 4 times more emissions from their lifestyle compared to this very passionate person about sharing. So we're trying to create an area there where you can be passionate and really embrace this sharing and actually see the results of this. So it's being developed now, and we are obviously excited to see the results of this, of the investment, because it's not only the city, it's building and construction companies that have embraced this as well, and they're investing in this area to see, okay, is this going to also be an example that we can use in city planning for the future? So this is what I had to tell you today, and again, I want to say thanks to this very distinguished audience. I hope what I've talked about have had some value to you, and I also want to say a very happy and prosperous 2022 to all of you. Thank you so much.
皆様いかがでしたでしょう。
Thank you very much. So energy project linked to companies and utilization of public transport for sustainable community buildings. These cases are very informative. So we have Vice Mayor, City of Malmo, Kingdom of Sweden, Mayor Chrisander had a video message to us.